Hi, I'm Kelly at Book and Paper Arts, and today I'm going to talk about commonplace books, what they are, how to make and keep one of your own, and why you should. A commonplace book is an old-timey name for what is really a hodgepodge book of you, a notebook where you put down things that get your attention, quotes, ideas, stuff, things that make you wonder, things that you want to come back to and think about. You just put those in a notebook and hey presto, you have a commonplace book. They can be, these are some of mine. We'll be looking at those throughout. This is one that is just written, just using handwritten notes. You can see that I use this a lot. I've got paper clips, bookmarks, dog ears. This is a really important tool for me. A commonplace book can also be visual or a combination of writing and visuals. That's kind of traditional, but you're going to find out what works best for you. These are powerful tools. A commonplace book will help you to pay attention. It will grow your sense of curiosity, and it will definitely be a source of inspiration, something that you'll come back to over and over. They are also easy to make, crazy inexpensive, and they're not fattening. So what are we waiting for? If you like journal arts, altered books, vintage books, paper, and other ephemera, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and be sure and turn on the notifications, and you will have more of them in your life. Let's look at notebooks. I believe in commonplace books so much that I had it in my pipeline to make an online class just about this. But as you know, I don't want to make any new online classes going into the future, so today you're going to get the shorter version. I just feel like I've got to preach this gospel. They have been around since, at least since the time of Aristotle, when he would encourage his students to write down quotes, which he called commonplaces, quotes, ideas, other things that they heard from speakers, that from other people. This is before the internet and before even encyclopedias. So he encouraged his students to make their own encyclopedias of things that interested them. In time, these commonplaces or these books of commonplaces were used more and more and in a lot of different cultures. Here are a few examples I have printed up from the internet, and these are mostly from the 1600s and 1500s. This is had to do with this was a sailor's log, and you can see that he's got notes about navigation. I think that's some kind of a sea animal, and then there's again notes about computation of navigation and whatnot. So this would have been really important, an important tool for this guy, and he would have just added to his lore as he got and learned more. This is a different book, also about sailors' lore. I think a lot of this is weather related. And this is about shipbuilding and the tools and the techniques. Here's one that is just handwritten, but you can see how he has changed fonts and size slightly so that he can see easily between the quotes that he's put down and use those, actually use them, not just, forget about them. Let's see, this is one about how to make a sundial. So maybe this guy had borrowed a book about making sundials, or he met somebody who was good at it, and boy, he was taking notes in his Commonplace book. And this one is from 1655, and it's beautiful. It's a combination of visual and written. And this man was a doctor, and he actually alphabetized and tagged his pages, because a lot of this had different medical treatments that he learned about and wanted to be able to access. So these have been used for many centuries, but they really started to pick up steam in the 1400s. That is when they became popular with Italian merchants. At a time when Italian merchants would travel to different places, unfamiliar places in the world. And so again, they would be learning about travel, sailing, about different cultures, stories, foods, ideas. He would hear quotes, questions. And these books at this time, went from being these huge tomes to small books that they could carry with them on their travels. And at this time, they were called zibaldone. You may have heard this word. If you go on Pinterest or whatnot and you look up zibaldone, you're going to see a lot of posts of contemporary, modern, commonplace books, because they're kind of in fashion. They have become a name for a better version of a bullet journal. So zibaldone, I'll write that in the text below this video so you can find out more. Let's see. And this one, the one that's written in different fonts, the library that owns this has actually done a flip through online, page by page. It is fascinating. I will link to this flip through also in the text box below this video. So I strongly encourage you to look at some other commonplace books for inspiration. And they're fun. I forgot to mention that in the 1840s, Thoreau and Emerson, who both were known for their commonplace books, might have been so good at it because they were taught how to do it at Harvard. It was part of the curriculum. Now, we don't got to be that fancy. All you need is a notebook. Your notebooks can have, it can be, again, a hodgepodge. It can be a collection of a ton of different stuff. Anything and everything. Thoreau himself actually said, I have a commonplace book for facts and another for poetry, but I find it difficult always to preserve the vague distinction which I had in mind for the most interesting and beautiful facts. What he said. You may find that once you start keeping one, that you want to have one for facts and another for poetry, or for recipes and for art lessons. Just whatever you will find as you go along what works for you. Clearly, this one says Handbook for the Pilgrim. It's done in just an inexpensive school notebook. And what I've done is I have collected writings, quotes, and ideas from a huge source of different books that help me as I'm trying to figure out the best way to live. Some of them are from spiritual books, while others are from nature writing or science, or from memoirs or biographies of people whose lives I admire and I'm curious about. So that does have its own book. Over here, I have another one, and this is a hodgepodge and a miscellany. Again, this is a little bit fancier. It's a Moleskine. It was a gift. I'm not crazy about the paper in Moleskine, but this is a nice size and weight. And what I did here was I actually, see, I need to write that in. I went ahead and added tabs for different topics. I've got one for work. That is creative artwork mostly. And here I have quotes. There's William Blake. Different quotes about making. Make visible what without you might never have been seen. That's Robert Bresson. I have a tab for notes on the cosmos. Stuff that I just can't get out of my head. You know what? I actually cut this out of a newspaper. How old school is that? This tab, these are about quotes. It says mystic. These are quotes about developing a mystic mind. Again, I didn't have paper that day, so I wrote it down and then I jammed it in my book. And I need to either glue that down or rewrite it. These are notes about spirit and prayer in its different sources, different iterations. Let's see, this says journey. And so these are notes about, these are quotes and ideas about travel. Physical travel and creative travel and what you will. And then this is left over for the kitchen sink and anything else. Don't know what that is. Here is another book of quotes. It's, I love this handheld size. So it's kind of a stenographer's notebook, but little. And it does have a lot of quotes. This one is super quote heavy. You do not ask too much of life, but far too little. This is good. The road of excess leads to the palace of wonder. So said William Blake. And he should know. I was at a museum when and saw an exhibition of some weird art. It's a different story. And all I had on me was this small notebook. And so I took it out and started just making pencil sketches. These are books that I need to look up and read. They're on my list. These are some weird expressions. I don't remember where I found those, but I want to find out what they mean. And some songs. You know, I just heard them. Now I made a note. I need to look those up. And so this Commonplace book is just different things. Notes. Let's see. One of my resolutions this year is to spend more time learning about art and how to make original art. I am making time to do online classes that I have paid for, online classes that are free. I also learn from books, and I learn from my friends on art dates who are farther along the path than I am. And they might do something and I'm like, whoa, why didn't I see that? So I will put that in my notebook. For this, I have a special dedicated notebook just for art notes. And that is because I'm already finding that as I'm doing these courses, YouTube, Pinterest, online classes, that I'm learning and then I'm not applying it and I'm moving on to something else and I forget. I forget how to do that really cool thing. So now I'm going to be putting it in this book and I will have it I can refer to it over and over. It's just a blank sketchbook. I got it after the holidays on sale. I'm guessing red was seasonal. I've just started it. I may come back and dip into this flip through style a little bit later. And this is me with some early experiments with doing these portraits. The artist doing the class is named Kate Thompson. And so I just made some notes down here because it's not just enough for me to put a picture in the book. It's wet on wet, yellow ochre, mauve gesso. So I've written some notes about what I was learning. Okay. These are some, I have a project, it's on my to-do list of making mixed media backgrounds from astronomical photos, cosmos stuff. So that's just clipped in there for me to get round to. This is an artist named Leslie Rotner, and I'm so inspired by her work. It's been up on my laptop as an open tab for weeks, so I finally printed up a few pieces to give me an idea. And I also wrote down notes about her prices, her sizes, what works for her. Again, she's further down the road than I am. And things like this, sizing, prices, are really hard and challenging for artists. So I'm learning from others. And like I said, got a lot of filling up to go in this book. I am going to be learning to make, I'm going to try to design my own style of illuminated and illustrated manuscripts. Mine are not going to be medieval, but I think that by studying medieval texts, I can learn a lot that I can then apply to my own style. So it's not in there yet, but I can tell you right now, I'm going to be trying to draw this thistle later today. And in my own page, block it in a similar way. I'm not going to be doing it this way. I'm going to be doing it my way, but that will be a point of reference, as are all of these. Yeah, I already started blocking that one off, and oops. And now, so I'm going to be, as I go through this book and try different things, I'm going to be making visual notes. Illuminated calligraphy. I'm going to be making visual notes. So that's a very strong way. Most of us are creative people trying to learn how to make and apply what we learn. That's a great way to use your Commonplace book. This book, which I do use as a miscellany for a little bit of everything, it's one that I carry with me for when inspiration strikes, is one that I made myself. It was inexpensive. It's just using some watercolor paper and found cardboard. A few weeks ago, I have a video here on YouTube where I showed how to make your own handmade art journal. Inexpensive and easy. So I'm not going to do that today. If you missed it, however, there's a link to that video in the text box below this one. You can go back and check that out and find out how you can make your own easy, inexpensive blank book. You know what? You don't even have to do that. You can. These are some where I was desperate. I just could not find a book, so I tore and folded some watercolor paper. I didn't even sew this one. I just used a hole punch and fed some twine in there, and hey presto, I've got something that will do. So no excuses. This is, let's see. I am vegetarian, and I've been trying to expand my repertoire of recipes. So when someone told me about this, I think it's called foul madamas. It's a Lebanese bean dish, and boy, does it sound delicious. I do have this bookmarked on my laptop, but I'm much more likely to make it if I've got my notebook reminding me. So let's see. Boy, this really, I had to stop everything I was doing. Again, I was reading Thoreau, and he mentioned that he's out for a hike and he wishes that he had his cyanometer so that he could measure the blue sky. And I was just like, whoa, wait, hold the phone. What the heck is a cyanometer? Turns out that in the 1780s, this man who loved mountain climbing could not himself stop looking at the different blues in the sky. He became obsessed. So he made this chart for himself with, 53 shades of blue, shades going from white to black. And these are all the shades. And he made these swatches out of cardboard and paper and Prussian blue ink. And he just committed years of his life to making this chart so that he could measure the blueness of the sky. And I got to tell you, that is exactly the sort of thing that will always go into my Commonplace book, because I need to know more about that. I need to know more about someone who was so curious about something so whimsical and obvious. It makes me happy. See, this painting was the wallpaper on my phone for a long time until I finally took it off and printed it and put it in my Commonplace book and wrote about it. Tardigrades. Tardigrades are weird. They are like little teeny tiny strange mystery animals. And ever since I found out about tardigrades, they are on my mind a lot. So they went in there. And these are facts. These are facts about the cosmos, cosmology. Let's see. Oh, what I'm reading right now is a book about foraging for food. It's not about how to, it's a memoir about a woman who does it. And I keep hearing, she keeps writing about these these plants I don't know. So I finally started making a list of them. And some I painted and some I just printed and glued in. But now I have some notes. This, you don't have to have a printer. Like I said, you can draw them yourself. Again, I cut this out of a newspaper this week. You know why? Because I am working on an altered book that is a book of wings. And you best believe that after having seen this earlier this week, I'm going to be making some kind of an angel or a creature who has a halo made of peacock feathers. Okay, so why isn't this in my red art notebook? Because I had this one on hand when I found this, and also because these books tend to cross-pollinate a lot. So, it's going to go in here, but I'm bound to be writing about it and transferring this idea to my art notebook. That's how they work. This is also how they work. I was reading, again, I subscribe to this magazine. It comes on old-timey newsprint, and it's a book review of a book about toxic plants. Sometimes toxic in a bad way, sometimes in small amounts they are medicinal and good stuff. I love things like this. So I'm going to be, I haven't done it yet, but after this video, I'm going to be adding the name of this book to my book so I can look it up at the library. And I've already started looking at, when I was reading it, some notes about things that are toxic plants I never would have thought about. Chrysanthemums? So I'm going to read this more closely, and then I will be probably adding these factoids to my book and making little pictures. Speaking of cross-pollination, I love these old botanical illustrations. I will be cutting those out and adding them to the book as well, both for information and for some creative ideas about making those illuminated pages. So see how these ideas all start to flow through what you're making, what you're wondering about, and your life. I am going to give Henry David Thoreau the last word here today. Yes, I am a mega fan. And he wrote in his diaries about commonplace books. I would fain explore the mysterious relationship between myself and things. I would at least know what these things unavoidably are, make a chart of my life, know how its shores trend, that butterflies reappear and when, know why just this circle of creatures completes the world. Me too. I hope you try this. I hope you try making a commonplace book, if it's just in a school notebook or a blank sketchbook or something that you make yourself. You will find that you are creating a compendium, a hodgepodge, and a miscellany that will be the encyclopedia of you. A collection of inspiration, a handbook. It will be full of the context for your life, your interests, and creating. Go get them. If you have any questions or feedback, especially if you have ideas yourself about how you keep and use notes, quotes, and stuff, please let me know in the comments below this video. Then we can all read them and be the better for it. Until later, get up and go make something.